All right, I'm going to switch gears a little bit today. I'm going to go and get the gas tank installed. I did put the tips on. I didn't go with any fancy tips. I just basically took some 45s and turned them down, kind of old school. And I think it looks good. I like it. Should look out, should make plenty of noise. Okay, so the first thing I got to do is I want to measure the sending unit and make sure I understand exactly what the parameters are of that, and then I will start plumbing this up and show you what I got. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is take out this extra bracket that they had kind of piggybacked in here. It's not needed if the tank is as shallow as this one. I guess 15.5 or longer you need that, but we're not anywhere near there. So first step is to measure this guy and see where I'm at, and I'm at about roughly 7 3/8. So I'll take half of that. So that's 3.5 plus 3/16 plus 1/8. So we'll just call it 3.5. And the idea is now you have to adjust this bit so that the pivot is halfway down the tank at 3.5. And you can see here we're at like 6 1/4. So I will do that next. Okay. And you just loosen up these 2 screws. Pretty simple. Slide it down. To 3.5. Wow, that's really far down. Okay, so this thing only goes up to, just a hair over 3.5, so we'll be okay right there. But the next step that you got to do is then cut it off right here. So let me pull this back apart and I'll go cut that off. Okay, so I cut that off, cleaned it up on the belt sander. I took the rheostat right off just to give it plenty of room. Now you just wind the cable back up and put the cable back on, the wire back on. Always amazes me that this wire actually sits open to gasoline. But hey, I've been doing it this way for 100 years, so what am I to say? Okay, so now that's all sorted-ish. There we go. Take the world's largest knuckle buster here. Okay, so there you go. Wire's wound back up. Everything's out of the way. Everything's happy. Happy, happy, happy. Cut off excess. Reinstalled thermostat, upper mounting bracket. Okay, let's check our length one more time. Just a hair, 1/8 over 3.5, so we'll take it. Actually, it's got to be a little lower than that, doesn't it? I'm sorry. It's half the depth plus 1/8. So half the depth plus 1/8 is 3.5, 3/16, and 1/8. Yeah, I can do math. That's 11/16. 3 and 11 is where it wants to be. Not sure how much of that will matter, but you know, we've all had gas tanks that full didn't show full or didn't come off full for a long time, and or empty means you had 300 miles to go, you know, which my wife loves. Okay, there, check. Okay, so now you have to put on the float and adjust the float so that, wait one. Okay, so now we have to install the float and adjust it so the top of the float is at the flange height. Shouldn't be too hard. I'll give you a fake pin to put in there. Wow, that's a sharp little sharp angle. Okay, so that looks like it's roughly it. We'll tighten it up first, just temporarily. And then this is all the way down, which should be roughly 7 3/8. So we're about 7 1/4. So that'll be fine. That way I can argue with the wife about when it's empty versus really empty, you know. You got to have that. Okay, now, and you want to cut off the excess so that it still makes contact with this lip. You can see that's kind of the stop. That sets 0 on that side, and I'm assuming 90 ohms on that side. The manual says it's a 90 ohm float sending unit. So we will measure that next. Let me just cut this arm off. I'll be right back. Okay, I got my, I won't call it a good meter, but my better meter. Anyway, so I'm going to measure these with the float down. What are you doing? God, I can't hold my fingers straight today. Okay, so all the way down is 0 ohms, all the way up 92.3.5, 93-ish. We'll throw in the ish. Okay, so that works fine. Let's see if I can hold it just about halfway and see if that measures half. Should be about 45 ohms. Yep, 47-ish. Yeah, I'll take that. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm just going to set this in the tank real quick. Throw the float on, the gasket on. Set it in the tank and just make sure the float's not hitting the bottom. And of course I put the wrong gasket on. I'm sure y'all noticed. Just want to make sure I still have 0. And I do. Okay, good check. All right. So, need the bigger gasket. Do I? No, this is the gasket that goes to this one. Oh, I'm in the wrong spot here. No. Well then, is that a little tricky bit? Okay. Okay, so that's where the float goes. It says in the instructions that you can use a Permatex gasket sealer on the cork material if you wish. I do have a high-tack sealer, but it's not the same number. They call it gasket dressing. I've always just called it high-tack, but anyway, I'm going to use it. And the way you use this is similar to like contact cement. You apply it on both sides, let it tack up, then push them together. Oh, I got to get that out of there now. Okay, so the sending unit's in. Just tried to torque these down as even as possible. Fun fact, it only goes one way. The spacing on these is not consistent, so the float kind of goes off this way. But nice if the instructions had said that. Okay, so again, we measure down the yap here. We're sitting at 7 3/8. You take your pump. Sock. Then you pry the little cap off. Okay, now you just press the pump into the sock, I guess. It kind of has a little barb affair so it can't come back out. That's good. Okay, now, so it says to measure from the bottom of your sock to the top of your pump. And I have 4 1/4. So 7 3/8 minus 4 1/4 is 3 1/8. So now I have to cut my hose here at 3 1/8. Probably won't be able to see it. All right, let me grab some cutters. Now, let's just double check, because if I take and hold this here, it should work out to 7 3/8, roughly. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so let's see my mark right here. I'm gonna cut that off. Then put a hose clamp back on it. Seems to have a strange little sleeve on it that I think makes up the difference between the two hose sizes. So, we will see. Okay, so just gave it a little bit of heat with the heat gun. The hose clamp on there. Now I'm just going to spin the clamp around so it's not in the way. And tighten this up. Phillips, nice. Makes it better. Okay, now it says you got to cable tie this to the body. But first things first, I'm going to plug in the pump with this super cool connector. Take the wires, and then you run the wires up through these little fittings. Like so, hopefully. Okay. Whoops. What was that? Little tiny washer. Then a piece of rubber in there. Alright, so you just pull those up through the bulkheads. Get that other washer out before we lose it. Then run this up through. And those are kind of nice. They're like a little rubber compression fitting that will keep it from leaking. All right, now just put the barrels back on. And tighten those up. Okay, another fun fact. Got to put this sleeve on before you put the filter on the bottom. Then a couple of cable ties and you got it. So now I'm going to slip the gasket on up over this mess. Make sure the gasket lines up more than one way. That would be nice. Okay, they conveniently have the top labeled return, vent, supply. So that's nice. I am going to orient, I'm going to turn the pump, this thing a little. Okay, so I am going to orient the pump this way. Okay, so those are all torqued down. I hit them like 6 to 8. It's so slight it's hard to measure, but I got those torqued down. That's my orientation. Now I got to connect up these two vents. I got to pull the cap off this one, connect it to this one, and then run that up to my vent filter. Okay, there's the vent line. I'm not sure why they put this vent here. It makes no sense. They got a vent here in the top of the tank. And I believe the cap's vented too. But anyway, seems kind of silly. Anyway, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a connector on this and bring out a couple wires with a connector on this so that I can get to them easily when the tank's up in place. Okay, so I've got the hoses made up on one end. I put a male connector on the sensor and a female connector on the pump. So now I think I'm ready to set this up in. Put my straps on. Got those hanging there. I think it should go right in. I'm gonna ask my wife to come up and give me a hand, but it should not be much of a mission. So we'll see what happens. So I had my buddy Mark come over and help me, and we just slipped it right up in. I got the gaskets on the top and on the bottom. Held them on with some black tape. I just got to trim off the excess here. But that went in super easy. I gotta say, it just slipped right in. I got my hoses up here. I got my vent lines to run, my supply and return. I haven't made the ends for any of those yet, so I will do that. My vent is up in there. You can see it. It's the one without a hose on it. This is the vent for the rear end, and right next to it is the gas tank vent. So that should be about it. All I got to do is terminate those hoses. I do need to double check because it's been so long on that filter unit up in there. I can't remember if the supply is in the middle or the bottom, but just got to look that up. One's return and one's supply. So I got two red caps on them now. You can see them up in there. But yeah, just got to get those hoses routed and loomed up a little bit so they're not rubbing anything. The tank fit perfectly around my exhaust. Very happy with that. I did have to turn the edge up just a little bit to get it up in past the exhaust because I didn't want to have to pull the exhaust down. But yeah, good day's work right there. So I'm pretty happy with what I got here. Yeah, can't really think of anything else. It's this, of course, is a Tanks Inc tank with the fuel injection pump built in, as you saw. And I've got the Corvette style filter regulator, and it's everything. The only plumbing left to do is from here to that filter regulator. So you can see it right there. But which is easier to get to than it looks from this side. But from here, it's pretty easy to get right up in there and swap that out if I have to, or when I have to. Pretty happy with the bottom of the car. Everything is up in the frame rails pretty good, pretty flat. Nothing really hangs down. The lowest point are the damn shocks in the back. So yeah, can't really complain. I have red tagged a few things just so I don't forget to put like grease in the rear end, and I got a red tag on the tranny and the motor too. But now I've got to get the filler neck in. I've been wondering what this hole was for. Now I know, just to get in there and put that hose clamps on the filler neck. But I got to run my filler neck down in. I have the rubber boot for it and everything. This is the neck, the boot, and the cap. And then there's a little splice thing like this that connects up between this and the tank. Got to get some hose clamps for that, and I don't have any. So yeah, that's the agenda. Okay, so I've got the hoses cut and fit to the filter. See if I can get a position where you can actually see it up in there. And I also put the hose up to the breather, the rollover breather. So that's all good. I didn't have a clamp to, there's a little plate that goes on the bottom of the filler neck sleeve. Right here, there's a little plate that kind of clamps this down to the floor of the trunk. I didn't have that. I couldn't find the original one. So I ended up making one this morning. So that's in paint right now. It's drying. First step to getting that neck in, however, is you got to slip the little rubber collar on in there and basically just slip two hose clamps on it, clamp the bottom off, leave the top loose for right now, and then I'll show you what we got to do next. Okay, so the first thing you got to do, it's a little tricky with one hand, but you got to scrunch up the top of this sleeve and slide the, put the camera down for a second, and just slide the ring down over so it's at the bottom. Okay, so you just kind of bunch it up, keep sliding it down. Okay, so now you get that plate down and lined up. Okay, then also, one other thing I forgot to mention, you got to take the door off, otherwise this won't go in. Then you slowly work this portion up through the hole into here. Then you pull, again, scrunch it up, and pull the flange through the hole in the tail panel. And that's basically this sleeve in a nutshell. Okay. Now, let's get that down there somewhere near close. And what this does is it just keeps, any fumes or gas from getting into your trunk area. And that's why it's important to have this plate here. That's why it's important to have this plate so that it can suck down tight to the piece. Now, next, you want to slide in the fuel filler neck. Now you'll notice this neck does not have a splash guard in it. So when you're filling it up, you're bound to get a little splashback. I have ordered a new one of these from a supplier, and I'll take you through it when I get it, that has the splash guard in it. I found one place that makes them, real cool guy. And when that comes in, I'll show you changing it over. But I want to get this on there now because I'd really, soon I'm going to need to put gas in it, and I'm not sure I really want to wait around for the other piece. So we'll finish putting this in. Now, as I understand it, the next step is to feed this down through that tube slowly. Yeah, pretty nice. Then we work it down over the piece here on the bottom and get it in there. I'm going to raise it up a little bit to finish this up. Okay, and you slowly push your piece down in over the tube down here. And I'm down in it about 3/4 of an inch right now. I can feel it, and it went on fine. So now you secure this with 4 screws here, and this little snubber that sticks out, that's what keeps your door out to the right distance. Then you put your fuel door back on. I would also recommend putting a little piece of tape right here, just so you don't scratch the paint when you're throwing that in there. So, all right, I'm going to try to screw that in. Okay, with 4 sheet metal screws, it draws right in nice. No complaints. So now I'm going to stick the door back on, get that ready, and attach the interior. Okay, there we go. My son and I actually did our own logo here with the pull handle. So that's basically it in a nutshell. I haven't put the cover on the back here yet. I just put the spatter paint on that and it's drying, but that's the only thing left is this little sheet metal cover that goes on here, just so stuff from the trunk doesn't go ramming into the gas pipe. But yeah, pretty easy install. Can't complain at all. So again, I'm probably going to replace that filler neck when the new one comes in with the splash guard version, so that we don't get dumping gas down the back of the car every time we fill it up. But yeah, that'll be it for this video, and like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Later.